Well, good morning. Welcome to Alpha Conference. It's an honor and a privilege to have so many people gathered here this morning. From different communities, different churches, different denominations, coming together under the banner of Jesus to explore evangelism together. Are we excited? Hopefully awake in some way or another. So you'll be hearing from a different range of speakers exploring what evangelism looks like in South Africa. And hopefully you leave with something that God drops into your spirit, something that you maybe write down in your notepad, where we take the gospel and we become tellers of the good news, but in a good way. And South Africa needs it. And more than it needs faithful people like me and you who've just met with Jesus, who know this Jesus that we speak of and who we meet with consistently, and we take that same Jesus and we say depression can go away. We go to that same Jesus and say things could be different because if you only met this one person called Jesus, if you could speak to me, that would be so much better. Amen. Yeah, I give you all the permission. If not, I will ask you to tell me because my self-esteem needs it. Amen. Yeah. So please just say something. Whether you say it wrong, you say it at the wrong time, but just say something. Amen. Yes, it's better if we all are engaged and I don't feel like I'm speaking to myself in a mirror. Glory be to God. Amen. It's just something. Well, in 2010, there was a guy called Anthony Bourdain. He was a world-renowned chef and traveler. He was at the top of his game. He had eaten at the most exclusive restaurants they were. He had traveled to the most exclusive and most remote parts of the world and told stories that millions of people ended up watching. These people didn't just fall in love with what he was doing, but they fell in love with all the different cultures that he had been in. He was once famously found saying, he said this, he said, your body is not a temple. It's an amusement park. Enjoy the ride. And he did. He had every external measure of success in his life. He had more fame that he could handle, more money to know what to do with, and more influence and freedom to do whatever that he had wanted. He had traveled to the most remote parts, eaten at the most exclusive places, and had all the money to do that all by himself, and had millions of people following him consistently. But in 2018, something happened. Tragic. He died by suicide. In his hotel room in France, whilst filming his hit series that millions of people would have watched. And everybody was perplexed. How does someone who have that much level of success, whose job was to eat food and tell people about it, and made lots of money from it, and traveled to the most amazing parts that he could tell how those ingredients make a specific dish come alive? He had the best job that anyone would ever wanted. I'm sure people here are all happy with their jobs. Amen. If you're talking about a dream job, I mean, come on, just to eat, come on. You know, we can see the effects of it. Amen. The world was shocked at how could someone who had all that external success, measure of success, would kill themselves by suicide. But one friend of his said this. He said, Tony was always looking for something he couldn't name. That last part has always grabbed me. Looking for something he couldn't name. He could name the money. He could name the success. He could name all the external things that he could potentially get. But he was always looking for something that he could not just put down and say, that's exactly what I wanted. I don't know if you know anything about yourself. Maybe you're also on a pursuit of always looking for something that you can't fully know. But our world is aching and our world is searching for something that our world can also not name. They are looking for love that still stays even after they've messed up. They are looking for purpose that is still there, that is not driven by applause. People are still looking to feel loved and accepted by people in their lives. Everybody is looking and everybody has a silent search. Every heart is aching, looking for something they cannot name. They're looking for peace that does not wear off by Monday morning. They are looking for purpose that is not tied to people's applause, and they are looking for a joy that is much deeper than the next thrill or the next escape. And our world uses words like freedom to explain it, or maybe it uses words like success to explain it, or it uses words like success to explain this one thing that they can't fully name. Everybody is on a pursuit, and everybody is running towards some specific direction, but deep down inside, they are aching. And deep down inside, they are searching. And where do we find ourselves? At an Alpha conference on a Saturday morning, gathering with great people, all waiting to potentially hear from God about how we could reach that aching world. I wonder if we have taken evangelism and put it on the side for those people. You know, the cooler ones, the ones that are a bit more eloquent, the ones with microphones. Or I wonder if we're in a state where evangelism has died because the same thing that the world is running after, we still want. Everything that the world is still searching for and still wanting, we here as believers, as Christ followers, still want it ourselves. We still sort of feel like our purpose is not enough. We still sort of feel like there's still some measure of success that we potentially want. And so when the world is aching, wanting purpose, wanting love, wanting freedom, we can't tell them about this Jesus that we've received because we want the same thing. So sometimes our evangelism falls down the line because the same thing that the world is running after, we ourselves, believers, are not satisfied by him. Evangelism at its core is not the people who are brave and courageous. It's just people who've met, who found him to be more special, found him to be more satisfying, and found him to be better than any and everything else in this world. But we find ourselves, just with my Christian friends, actually, we find ourselves not even doing evangelism because what's that? That's for those people. Jim Carrey, speaking about this, he says, I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything that they've ever wanted so that, so that they can see it's not the answer. Most people don't even know what they're aching and they're searching for. And I wonder if we've relegated our responsibility for our own comfort, for what is convenient for us. Everybody is asking the same question. Our world has a silent search that is happening all around us. And we, as followers of Jesus, are meant to live lives that interrupt that noise. We, as followers of Jesus, are meant to interrupt the noise of the searching world. We are meant to become signposts, pointing that there is peace in a world full of anxiety. We are meant to become signposts, showing that even if you might not be doing the thing that you want, but there's a purpose that I've found in Jesus, and living for him has fulfilled me much more than achieving everything else that I could ever achieve in my life. We must become signposts, showing people that I have found freedom in the midst of a world that is addicted and is drawn by their own desires. We must become these signposts, saying that, hey, I don't have it all together, but I've met someone who has, and he's changed my life. And you know what? All the stuff has not left, but he's still changing me. He's still renovating my heart, and somehow he's still changing my heart. He's still changing my mind. We are meant to become signposts, living so vulnerably in a world that does not tell what they did last night. Living so vulnerably in a world where we keep secrets aside, but living so freely, knowing that we've been accepted by him, that we are sons and daughters of the Most High King. We are meant to become signposts. And all we are meant to do is not draw people to ourselves, but somehow in this weird way, God uses us. Broken, sometimes silly, sometimes a whole lot of yuck under our truck. But sometimes he still says, those people, I want those people for you to point them to me. We are not meant to point them to ourselves or show them how much we know or what experiences we have. All we are meant to do is to say, I've met him. And you can meet him too. And actually, he hasn't just changed it, he's still changing me. You know, sometimes as believers, we speak of sin in the past tense, yet we forget what we did yesterday. And maybe we're meant to become signposts, speaking of his loving mercy and grace, and just pointing everyone that we meet in our lives to him. In a searching world, maybe we are meant to interrupt that silence, interrupt that noise by pointing people to Jesus, by living so differently, so honestly and so freely. So in a world where everybody is asking the same question, Jesus provides a solution. And outside of just providing a sort of a solution, he doesn't begin with commands of things that you must do, but Jesus actually begins with compassion. And he says in Matthew, come to me. In a world that lives for achievement, in a world where I only become your friend because you're going to take me to the destination that I want, in a world where I scratch your back and you scratch mine, Jesus' command is not even a command. He comes in compassion and says, come to me. Interestingly, I don't have to fix myself to come to him. He doesn't have to fix me to come to me. But also what it means for me and you when we evangelize, all we need to do is to say, go to him. It's so simple in the sense that I don't have to have all the answers that you want. I can't explain all the stuff that has happened to your life. I can't give you the best answer that you want, whether you've been hurt by the church or whether you've got so many questions about the church or whether the scriptures just do not make sense. All I am meant to do is to say, come to Jesus. And the prerequisite is for the fact that you are so tired. You're so weary. You're so broken. You know that you've tried everything else and it hasn't happened. You've tried that podcast that tells you all the great things and it's still not working. And you've read all the great books, but somehow it's still not working. And you've tried to chase achievement, or you've tried to chase success, or you've tried to climb the ladder of your life in your own way, and somehow you still feel like there's something missing. Maybe you're like Tony, where he was looking for something he couldn't name. And we live amongst those people. Amongst people who are living for something that they cannot name. And yet they are trying every single thrill, every single adventure under the sun. And we are just meant to say, come. We are meant to just say, come. But I wonder, as much as I'm encouraging you about evangelism, maybe you need to come to him. Maybe the worries of the world have trapped your heart and your soul. Maybe the things of God are stuff that you do, but actually your heart is so far from him. Or maybe you've done this for so long and you've sort of seen this script for so long that the thrill of meeting with Jesus is just not there anymore. And so you just find yourself occupied doing Jesus's things for Jesus's people, but Jesus has left your heart. There's a place in your heart that is vacant, and maybe the invitation for you this morning is to come to him. So that we don't do anything outside of him. And that we don't find ourselves doing Jesus' stuff without Jesus, because that's a disaster, right? And so if this morning we come with a to-do list of stuff that we must do for God, yet our posture isn't first going to him. And knowing that actually the prerequisite is that you must come all who are what? Heavy laden. Burdened with the desires, burdened with the things of the world, burdened with my family issues, burdened with my financial constraints, burdened by stuff that are not working in my life. And somehow in the midst of all of that, Jesus says, you qualify to come to me. Actually, I want you to know that you can't do this life thing by yourself. All of us here know that we make the worst decisions. We're not as cool and as good as we think we are. And somehow Jesus provides the best invitation. Come to me. And the only qualification in the scriptures, all who are heavy laden, all who are burdened. I wonder what burdens you are carrying. And maybe, I wonder if I take my burdens and I give them to Jesus, Jesus might give me new ones. And ones that he would be able to actually empower me to overcome. And maybe the burdens of my own life, the striving that I'm doing and the hustling that I'm doing and the things that I'm doing for my own life, soon I'll have a burden for the nations. No, soon I'll have a burden for the community. Soon I'll have a burden for South Africa. Soon I'll have a burden for disunity in our country. Soon I'll have a burden for stuff that I can't even give you an answer to. But somehow, in the midst of God giving you that burden, his spirit will be with you. Because you know that you can't do it by yourself. You know there's no book for you to follow. There's no YouTube video for you to go through. But somehow, when you meet with Jesus, one story at a time, one life at a time, one person at a time, somehow God will empower you with wisdom that you've never received anywhere before. God will give you strength that you've never received before, because you are carrying his burden and you've let the burdens of your own life on his lap. Oh, King Jesus, may you take the issues of our lives, the burdens that we carry, the things that we stress and run after. Somehow I find that when I stress less about financial provision, God somehow provides in the most weird of ways with people that I do not even like. But because I've been with Jesus, somehow the things that he does for me, he gives for me. I find that my depression sometimes flees and goes away because the things that I am depressed about and the things that I'm lacking peace about, when I give it to him soon, he gives me a strategy to go through it and to walk through it. And sometimes he even says, that issue will still be there, but I'll give you peace. That stuff will still be there, but I'll give you peace. And the invitation is for you to come. I wonder where you are on that coming. And I wonder how your feet are to run to him. And I wonder if you are so tired with your life, so tired with other people's lives, that a burden has grabbed your heart so much more bigger than yourself. That's why St. Augustine says, you have made us for yourself, oh God. And our hearts are restless until they find rest in you. And that's the cry, not just for your own soul, but that's the cry for everybody else in our world. A deep, unrelenting longing for something more. Something beyond the natural. Something beyond what we can see and what we can do. Everyone and yourself has a God-shaped hole, and that hole can only be filled by God himself. So the invitation this morning is to come. And interesting, when you come to Jesus, I don't know if you've done this thing called prayer. And then sometimes when you do this weird thing called prayer, sometimes I end up telling God what to do and how to do it and when it must be done by. And then I say, but to your glory, Lord. I mean, I don't know if there's any normal people who've done that. You know, sometimes I feel like I could be God's consultant. And I definitely know how this situation should be different. And I wonder if coming is not necessarily praying, but it's a posture of just being with Jesus. It's a posture of just sitting under his feet. I wonder if more could be done through less of our words, but just being with him and just coming to him. Because soon my heart would overflow with the burdens and the worries of my life. And soon I'll say, well, there's no other way, but I've come to you. May you do what only you can do. Our world is looking for people who've been with Jesus. And our world is looking for people who say, come. Are you addicted and stressed? Come. Are you burdened by the state of the things in your own life, in your own world, in your own country? Come. And you know what he will do? Give you no solution. He won't give you sometimes a provision, but he'll give you his rest. In the midst, sometimes I feel like Jesus is weird. In the midst of all my problems and the stuff that I'm going through, and in the midst of wanting the things that I'm wanting in my life, he gives me the last thing that I struggle to do. Rest. Because when I'm burdened and I'm weary, how do you rest? How do you rest knowing that tomorrow morning you've got a conference? And if anything goes wrong, your mind just runs to all the million things that go wrong. And somehow in the midst of that, all he says is just come to me. And he will give me the last thing that I thought that I ever needed, ever wanted. But he gives me the very thing that I know that I need. Rest. And our world is looking for people who are less restless, people who are living lives that are less anxious. And so if we are pointing and that we have met this Jesus, hopefully that same posture is in your life as well. And the reason why Jesus gives us rest is not for anything else other than this. That when we find our rest in him, he gives you wholeness. Doesn't take away the issues, but somehow in the midst of the issues, he feels like he's protecting your soul. And he will give you wholeness. And when he gives you wholeness, you then can go to a hurting world and say, I've met him. When he gives you wholeness and you know that he's still working in you, you go to a hurting world and say, I've met him. Why don't you come to him? The Alpha Conference, you'll be hearing from distinguished speakers, guests and amazing people who are doing incredible stuff in all that God has called them to be. And I hope that God is calling you to something, that your community could be different because you were there. Your school could be different because you were there. Your university could be changed because you were there. Your workplace could be rearranged and there'll be less toxicity because there's a light in the midst of the darkness. And in the midst of all the hopelessness that we find in our world, somehow there would still be somebody still carrying life and still carrying a light. And so I hope that today you leave with that one thing that God might be calling you to. But I hope that you do it from a place of just coming to him and just being with him And sometimes it feels like even if you don't do all the other stuff, if you just be with Jesus. Because soon if you've been with Jesus, you will do the stuff Jesus calls you to do. You don't need a conference to do that. You don't need some motivational Instagram or someone sending you a nice thing for you to do it. But because you've been with Jesus, and you will know that his heart is beating for the nations. His heart is beating for communities. His heart is beating for more churches to be planted. His heart is beating for more people to find freedom. His heart is beating for all the injustice that's happening in the world. His heart is beating for all the young people who are not finding security in him. His heart is beating for people to find him. And so when I'm with him, soon my heart starts to beat for the things that beat for him. Hopefully, at the end of this conference, you will leave with one thing. But as I finish up, I would love for you to leave with this. Let your life be a question mark. Let your life be a question mark. In a questioning and in a hurting world, let your life be a question mark. Let it interrupt someone's assumptions about faith and about God, because somehow they would see a resemblance in your life. About joy, about peace, and about meaning. Let your life ask, is there more? Let people see your generosity and ask you, how do you do it? Let your heart, people see how you live your life and they say, why are you doing what you're doing? Let your life be a question mark. And then let it quietly whisper, yes, there is. And his name is Jesus. Thank you.